Hello everyone and welcome back to Ace Attorney Investigations 2 Prosecutor's Gambit, where we're finally starting to put, well, I should say I am finally starting to put the pieces of this together. I'm sure maybe other people got it way before I did. But it seems like the goal was to frame Canis for Knight's murder. Now I, as we were going through this, originally thought, once they started talking about like going through the correspondence, I'm like, oh, Lagarde thought that Canis, or that Knight was in league with Canis, and that was the reason for offing Knight. But now it seemed that's so weird though. But I guess because there was that little connection with the letters that like maybe helps establish a motive. That's all I can think of. Anyway, apologies if there ends up being we're short an episode this week. It's still kind of low energy, but we will try our best. We're gonna get started with Lagarde's testimony. I'd really like to. I don't know how much is left, but I'd love to finish up this chapter this week. My truth.
I don't really think anyone could have done it but that dreadful man Canis. There's no telling what went on between him and the victim. Perhaps he simply took a disliking to him. He's certainly the type.
Can't argue with that.
Whatever the sort of details, it was him. He stabbed that poor man to death. Then he had his dog dispose of the body. That simply has to be what happened. The victim, Mr. Knight, yes. I did him the most terrible disservice.
Yes, you killed him.
I suppose you could put it that way. If I weren't such a sorry excuse for a warden, this never would have happened. And that's why I have to clean up this terrible mess. Warden Lagarde, as ever, your honesty is truly to your credit. I'm certain Mr. Knight is looking down and weeping tears of regret.
Really? You've clearly never met Mr. Knight. Alright.
Hold it!
You seem very confident in your assertion. Why is that?
Because all the other children in my little home are absolute sweethearts. They have faith in themselves and in one another. They have faith in the guards and me. And they work hard every day to better themselves. None of them would dare commit murder.
That's a very touching reason indeed.
And I don't believe a word of it.
But Canis, oh, he's rotten to the core. He's the only one who would do something like that.
Hold it!
Knight was being kept in a holding cell while Mr. Canis was in the prison proper. What could possibly have happened between them when they were at opposite ends of the facility?
Prisons aren't as big as they seem, you know. All kinds of awful things can happen.
But Knight only arrived 2 days before he was murdered. I can't imagine anything significant happening in that short space of time.
Then you don't know Canis, my dear. He'd find a way, I'm sure of it.
It's not really. But can't argue with that.
How could you take a disliking to somebody all the way over in the holding cells?
Oh, I'm just plucking possibilities out of the air, darling. As I said, there's no telling what really went on between them. You're so awfully serious, aren't you? Not that I mind, of course.
Why is she looking at me like that? Just go ahead and...
So noble. So dashing in that marvelous suit. So clever. I can feel myself becoming your biggest fan, darling. I really can.
Stay with me, Mr. Edgeworth. It's not worth it. Wasn't prepared for that mental onslaught.
Hold it!
What more can you tell us about those sordid details?
Well, we all know what Canis once did for a living. I doubt the killing part gave him much trouble. Especially as the victim was already injured. His neck, I think. He couldn't turn his head to the right, poor dear. That's what they told me when they brought him in, anyway.
They must take some sort of report for the warden when the new prisoners are admitted.
You seem keen for us to think you didn't know much about Knight.
That's because I didn't, sweetie, and the victim was simply a fun target for that monster, nothing more. I expect Canis used the chisel that was hidden in that chest set, don't you? Awful grisly business. Just imagine, the man probably didn't even have time to cry out.
I see, thank you for your thoughts, they were very helpful. Actually, I'd like to hear about them in a little more detail if you don't mind.
Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, you're making me blush. I could chat with you all day. Oh, don't look so nervous, darling. I'm only teasing. Of course we can talk about them some more.
Use the chisel that was hidden in the chest
Hold
set.
it!
And which chest set would that be precisely?
Why, the one the victim brought in, sweetie. Do try to keep up. The victim was a certified chess fanatic, or so I'm led to believe. But the naughty boy snuck a chisel inside it. Can you imagine?
How does she know about the chisel in the chest set? Only a few people were supposed to know about that. After all, we only learned about it thanks to certain deductions we made. So how did she find out?
Of course, in the hands of a killer like Canis, even a chisel could serve as a deadly weapon.
Hold it!
I think I need to present something there.
You seem to have very strong feelings about Canis.
Well, of course I do. I told you what he said to me. What an absolute menace he was to interrogate. He could slither out of anything, the snake.
He sounds as tough as a rock.
And that infuriating, self-satisfied look on his face when they took him back to his cell. Ah, my blood just boils thinking about it.
Certainly don't blame her on that count.
Hold it!
Surely you're not suggesting that the dog threw the body down the well?
I told you already, darling. Canis has more dogs than that beastly creature. Remember, he has pets on the outside, too.
You mean he brought someone in from the outside the prison to help him commit the crime?
Of course not, silly. How could they have made it through security? But he's the so-called fixer, no? Exercise that fabulous little brain of yours.
Fabulous brain of yours, little. I don't know. I don't know.
How hard would it be for him to recruit a dog on the inside, or even plant one?
Interesting, and does this dog have a name?
Well, if I knew that, my life would be so much easier now, wouldn't it? Anyway, it was just a little thought. You can ponder it on your own sweet time, darling.
She's a slippery one. I'm not going to be able to catch her with this line of questioning, it seems. Warden Lagarde's testimony is a little more than a house of cards. I just need to push her on the right statement to bring it all tumbling down. Okay. Anyone could have done it, but that dreadful man Canis, there's no telling what woman. Where was it? Use the chisel. Okay. What do we know about the chisel? Oh, there it is. Contains traces of blood hidden by Canis inside his dog's mouth. It has a small bell attached to it. Okay. What do we know? Not that one. We have wasn't there another? Oh, there it is. Knight hid a chisel in there. The only thing I could think of is, do I present this because, like, no one knew about it? I mean, it clearly got past the staff. Other than that, I don't know. Use the chisel. Like, I think there's something with the bell. I don't think we're quite there yet. Like, I think that's going to be important. Because did anyone bring up a bell? Man, so this is where, like, ooh, it's been a couple weeks. Dang. I don't believe anyone mentioned a bell. Could I present this here to be like, hey, you didn't use that chisel because there's the bell on it? Or do I know it's not that chisel because there's a bell on it? You know what I mean? I feel like the chess set is like... I feel like that's where we're going. I feel like we're going to have to build up to that other part. Yeah, there we go.
Warden Lagarde, you strike me as being more careful than the image you project suggests.
Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, please call me Fifi, or Sweetie Pie if you prefer.
However, I think you may have been a little less careful than you realize in this instance.
Aren't you just the most adorable little creature? Don't be embarrassed, we're all family here.
Come on, Mr. Edgeworth, don't let her get inside your head or other parts.
You said earlier that you didn't know much about Knight.
But knew he was a chess fan.
In which case, I find it rather strange that you know about the chisel.
Well, of course I do, darling. Do you think we don't check prisoners when they come in?
But no one knew about it.
You're not talking your way out of this, Warden. That is entirely irrelevant, and you know it. Knight didn't bring the chess set into the prison himself. It was brought by Mr. Saint when he came to visit. Knight wouldn't have had it with him when he arrived.
I mean, of course that, when Mr. Saint came in, we...
Completely missed it.
You checked him. I find that hard to believe, because if you did, that makes your story all the stranger. If you found the chisel, why did you not confiscate it there and then?
Yeah. So Saint snuck in a chisel? But why? And then they used that chisel as the murder weapon.
Eek.
Or did Saint not even sneak that in the first place?
Judge Gavel, did you tell anyone about the hidden compartment in the chess set?
I did not.
If no one leaked our findings, then how exactly did you learn about the chisel, Warden Lagarde? Because it certainly couldn't have been when you checked Knight or Mr. Saint on their arrival.
Indeed, such a thing would imply an intentional oversight if it had been found, yet let through.
Precisely so, Lord Lagarde, and answer truthfully this time. Where and when did you learn about the chess set? If you won't answer, then allow me. I submit that you...
Alright, darling. There's no need to rub it in. You got me, alright? My question, Knight, that was when I learned about the chess set.
What?
But please, you have to believe me, I did not kill him. One moment, Warden. This is a significant development. Court requests that you make a detailed statement on the record. Any objection, Mr. Edgeworth?
I guess not.
None, Your Honor.
Thank you, darlings. I'll clear up this awful misunderstanding, I promise.
Alright, round 3 of testimony.
Very well, go ahead, Warden Lagarde, and please, tell the truth this time.
My lies are starting to wear thin. This is my chance to expose her. Wait. Oh, I see what he means. My Truth Part 2. More Lies Part 77.
I said I questioned Knight, but it wasn't anything serious, you understand? I make a point of talking to every newcomer to our little home. It was no different. We just had a little chat, you might call it. And after we talked, I had him taken back to his cell straight away.
The more she lies, the more thoroughly she seals her fate.
So it was simply a conversation with the new detainee. That seems entirely above board. Exactly, Verity, darling, I knew you'd understand.
Nope.
Well, I don't. What proof do you have to back up your statement?
I suppose we shall see, won't we, Mr. Edgeworth? You may begin your cross-examination.
Okay.
Hold it!
So am I right in assuming that you talked to Knight the night before the show?
Exactly, darling. It would have been, around 3 a.m. on the 27th.
Man, that falls squarely within the window of time laid out in the autopsy report.
That seems rather late for a friendly chat. Wouldn't he have been asleep?
Normally, yes, but if you remember, a guard was attacked in his cell. We'd examine the scene of the crime, gather information. These things take time, sweetie. I assure you he was wide awake. We all were.
Regardless, I find it somewhat odd that you would choose to question him at such a late hour.
Oh, you're such a tease, aren't you? Anyway, no matter how odd you think it is, I had him brought to me, and that's what happened. Must you really insist on questioning every last thing I say?
Sorry, Feefs. He's like a dog with a bone sometimes. I'll be sure to scold him once we're done. Though, would you mind giving us a little more info, like where you had him brought to?
In my office, of course. Where else?
Her office, which is where we believe the body was moved from.
Would you mind appending what you just said to your testimony?
Anything for you, darling.
Hold it!
Remind me where your office is.
You've seen the sign in the detention center corridor, I imagine.
The one that says no entry.
That's it, sweetie. My office is just up there, a short walk from the holding cells.
I understand that you also have access to the yard.
Of course, that's where my gorgeous little garden is. Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're saying that's how I moved the body.
You had the means and the opportunity. It's hardly impossible.
Hardly impossible proves nothing. You have no evidence for this assertion.
There is no other way that the body could have been moved.
Surely you haven't forgotten that it was Mr. Saint who dropped Mr. Knight's body down the well.
Yeah, what she said. You're miles off, Edgeworth. Got him. I probably shouldn't push this any further for now.
Hold it!
What did you and Knight speak about?
Oh, nothing much, just some small talk, really. I asked him about what animals he liked and what his hobbies were.
His hobbies. Then I imagine you talked about chess.
Oh, yes, I couldn't stop him from talking about it, in fact. He even had a piece of paper covered with little notes about it in his cell. At least I think that's what they were about.
So she's seen Knight's correspondence chess diagram. That's important.
Hold it!
Okay.
How was he when you spoke with him?
Oh, he was so open and honest, darling.
What? That guy? Honest?
He was talking about one croissant and promoting a prawn. I suppose he must have been hungry.
One croissant and promoting a pawn. It seems he spared no one from his obsession with chess. Well, his name was Mr. Knight, you know.
Hold it!
If he really had gone back to his cell, he would still be alive today.
You really think I murdered the poor man right there in my office, don't you? But what would my motive have been, darling? I told you I barely knew him. I'm no angel, I have my grudges against Canis, but Knight had nothing to do with that animal.
She really does hate Canis.
Warden Lagarde, I must insist that you append that statement to your testimony.
Angel, I have my grudges against Canis, but Knight had nothing to do with the animal.
Hold it!
You say that you bear a grudge against only Mr. Canis, is that correct?
No, I despise him. Coming into my prison, thinking he can do whatever he wants. But he won't get away with it. I'll clip his wicked wings if it's the last thing I do. And that awful dog of his, it's a menace. Completely upended the peace and quiet in my home.
She even hates his dog. It does seem at first glance that she didn't have much of a motive to kill Mr. Knight. But she hates Canis so much that she probably hates anyone who has anything to do with him. Oh, thinking about it from that angle, the key to breaking your testimony will surely reveal itself. So I have to get to know all the beeps, huh? Pretty chummy prison warden, if you ask me.
Chummy, she killed a man, detective.
Poor guy would have been in cuffs, not to mention the neck brace. He was defenseless. Warden Lagarde was a murderer. The evidence points to that conclusion and no other. Wasn't any... Alright. Hold on. Oop, nope, I want to go back. After that, take it back to cell. I'm no angel. I may have my grudges against you, but Knight had nothing to do. Ah! Where? Prison search. Wait. Is it the diagram? Do I have anything else that's like shows it was them talking? I think that's it. Yeah, it's got to be the diagram. That was playing correspondence chess against Canis, so yeah, that's got to be it.
Objection!
Gotta.
Judge Cavill, I'd like you to look at this.
It's about a game of chess. What is the significance of this, Mr. Edgeworth?
It was found in Knight's cell, which is exactly where you said you saw it too, Warden Lagarde. But you didn't just see this game in Knight's cell, did you? You've seen it in Mr. Canis' cell too.
So yeah, it's assuming she noticed.
What do you mean?
Objection!
Yeah.
No, come now. Don't tell me you haven't taken a look at the chessboard in maximum security.
Oh, now she's mad.
I imagine you watch his every move like a hawk. Or rather, I imagine you feel that doing so is your only option.
If she wants to find out who his cronies are, right?
The personally interrogating your own prisoners is highly irregular, to say the least. But as you said, Mr. Canis had threatened you. He put your precious home at risk. That is why you took it upon yourself to question him. You wanted to find out who his dogs were.
So what if I did?
You also told us you read his letters, which means you must have known about one key fact. You knew he was playing correspondence chess. And then who should appear but Knight, carrying with him a diagram of a very particular game. We ourselves use that diagram to infer a connection between the two men. It seems you came to the same conclusion, but in your fear you took your reasoning one step further. You surmised that Knight was Mr. Canis' henchman sent to kill you.
Whoa, wait, what? Really? Which is the real reason she had that chat with the Bronxster. If his boss wouldn't crack, maybe he would.
When you questioned Knight, you made another discovery. For there in his chest set, you found a hidden chisel.
The murder weapon itself.
As far as you were concerned, the chisel meant one thing, Canis. Thus, you convinced yourself that Knight was working for Canis, and that is why you killed him.
Ooh, that's good. Alright, I'm gonna pause it here, and we will hopefully finish this up in the next episode. Hope you're all still enjoying this. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.